Enduring Legacy is the best weapon in the game right now. Therefore, acquiring this weapon may require not just hours of grinding, but it may take you weeks or even months, depending upon your luck and farming strategy, especially if you want to have all 5 copies to make this weapon reach its full potential. As you can see, I have fully maxed out my Enduring Legacy, and I did it in a reasonable amount of time because I had a strategy going in that works really well for me. That is in my opinion, and I will share my experience with you in this video. Despite the insane RNG drop rates for the parts, there are methods and tools available that can make the grind a whole lot easier to manage. My name is Weds. I'm going to share with you guys what I believe to be the most efficient way to farm all 5 copies of Enduring Legacy, and I will also include some of my best tips for the blueprint that has been haunting you forever. Now, please understand everything I say here is based on my experience. We'll have different luck, and I'm just trying to help. There will be timestamp in the description for you to skip to what's most relevant to you. Now, I'm going to show you a tool that I have been using to get all the parts as easy as possible. But before I show you the tool, I'm going to give you my number 1 tip or advice. You might think this is a theory. Maybe it is. But it has worked for me every single time. Therefore, I figured I should share this with you guys. I know the biggest complaint for many of you is getting the Enduring Legacy blueprint because it has the lowest drop rate out of all the parts. I also think some of you may not use the most efficient way to farm for it. And yes, I know it's RNG, but there is also an effective way to farm for RNG stuff in this game. Again, I tested this theory multiple times, and I know if you give it a try, you might be surprised. Additionally, if you are struggling right now with any part, help is on the way, because there will be a new vendor machine by the name of ETA 0, from which you can trade excess blueprints from your inventory in exchange for blueprints that this vendor will be selling. It's going to be limited according to the developers, and we don't know what the ratio will be, but I highly doubt it's going to be a 1-to-1 ratio, and I will be shocked if it is. Nonetheless, it will be one way to help you get your missing parts. Now back to my number 1 tip that I want to give you. You should know by now, even the parts that have a 32% drop rate can take you 100 runs to get it. But that never happened to me. And it should not happen to you either. If you farm for a 32% part 50 times per se, and you don't get it, you should realize there is a problem. Yes, again, I know it is RNG, and you may have the worst luck in the game. But I also think some people have a gambling problem. All jokes aside, what has worked for me is this. If I have 10 patterns available, and I am farming for a 32% drop rate, and there are 2 items in the pool that are at the same 32% drop rate, as you can see on screen right now, it is very likely that you are going to get something you don't want. And therefore, if I keep getting the one that I don't need after 6 to 8 tries, I am going to stop, and I will try it the next day. Do you know why? Just like gambling, there is something in your brain that keeps telling you that you're going to get it the next try. And when in fact, it is most likely not going to happen. But you convince yourself it's going to happen. And that's how you end up spending 100 patterns for 1 part in 1 day. That's what people are saying on Reddit and on YouTube and some other forums, etc., etc. They keep saying they spend so many patterns and can never get this or that. I don't doubt it. But remember, the First Descendant is a live service game. And every day, the game resets at 11:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So, if you let the game reset and try again after the reset, you have a better chance of getting the item that you could not get the day prior. It's a live service game, and it's an RNG game. So it's something to think about. You don't have to get everything right away. Take a break from it. Go farm something else. Take your time. That is the biggest step or advice that I can give you based on my experience with this grindy RNG game. And this philosophy of mine is how I was able to max out Enduring Legacy in a short period of time. Now let's segue to the tool and show you how to use it to get what you need. The link will be in the description for your convenience. This is what I have been using for farming weapons and Ultimate Descendants, and I think it will help you tremendously. It is way better than the in-game access info in my opinion. You can have it opened on your phone, tablet, or laptop, what have you, and not have to worry about going to the access info all the times. I support these guys with a small donation. You can do the same if you want, but it is totally free for you to use. So for Enduring Legacy, the first thing you need to do is to farm the materials first. And if you have Enzo, it's going to make things a lot easier for you, because it's easy to locate resources on the ground and in encrypted vaults. Anyway, on the website, there is an option to just indicate the number of copies of Enduring Legacy that you want to farm. Then, once you select that number, the website will calculate how many of those resources that you need to farm. You do not have to do it this way, but I think it's better to get this out of the way first. That way, when you find a blueprint for Enduring Legacy, then you can just go straight to research. Next, for each Enduring Legacy part, I'm going to recommend what I believe to be the best way to farm that particular part based on my experience. But you are free to do whatever you want. Plus, now that you have this tool, the sky is the limit. So you can go about farming Enduring Legacy the way you want by following this website. Alright guys, so the first one is going to be the Polymer Syncytium. So we're going to go in here, like I said, just farm the materials first, and then you can worry about the parts. There are two different options. You can do the reactor bosses or you can do intercept bosses. So my preference is intercept bosses. The reason why is because if you decide to do reactor bosses, first of all, some of the patterns are going to require you to have Sharon. So if you don't have a good Sharon build, then you out of luck. But if you have a good Sharon build, you can still do it. But the only issue is, in my experience, it takes a very long time to actually get the amount of patterns you might need to farm. As you can see, the drop rate for pattern is between 5 to 25. You can spend 1 hour doing outposts and only get 2 patterns. So I stay away from those, but if you decide that's what you want to do, that's okay, because it's still a 20% drop rate. If you get the patterns, then you have a chance to get it. But me personally, I prefer to do intercept battle. The reason being, let's say for instance, we're going to look at this one right here, and we can see the percentage for all of them. Now, the highest percentage when it comes to the intercept bosses for this one is going to be Frostwalker. Don't be too afraid to do Frostwalker. It is a very easy boss to do right now. There's a lot of people doing it in public lobbies. Then you can just join them and you get a chance to get that 20% instead of going for the easy 10%. But if you're afraid of Frostwalker, you still can go do this one right here, Devourer, the easiest boss in the game, but it's only a 10%. So if you have the patterns for it, just go do Devourer. Now, when you are doing those intercept bosses, the reason why it is easier, in my opinion, is because you can do the actual infiltration, and then you can get 2 patterns every time you complete the infiltration. So 10 runs will give you 20 patterns. So that means you have more chance. Now, the only difference with this one is the fact that it's only 10%. And this one is also another 10% if you decide you want to do Obstructor. These bosses are very easy to do if you decide to do them. So that's for the first part. And this is my preference as far as doing them. But to each their own, you can just do the reactor if that's what you decide to do. But bear in mind that you're going to have to not only farm patterns, but you're also going to have to farm the materials out of outposts. So That's 3 different layers. That's the reason why I stay away from them. So that is for the first part, if you decide you want to do this one. Now for the second part, this one right here, you can see you have a couple of them that are 32%. Now, in my opinion, the easiest one is going to be Devour. And you can just farm this shelter and do at least 10 runs and you'll get 20, and you get a big chance to actually get a few patterns. But you know, this is my opinion. You can just do whatever you want. But you also have this one, Molten. You're probably going to stay away from this. But like I said, the bosses are very easy nowadays. So if you get into a good group, then you might be able to get this done if you have the patterns. So you might have some patterns laying around. And if you decide you want to give it a try, just give it a try. But do whatever is easiest for you. Now, also, another thing you should look at, this one is on normal difficulty. So if you have some of these patterns laying around 0, 1, 2, then you have no chance of doing the other ones, then just give it a try. I've got this one before, 1 drop from doing this one on normal. It is a 6% drop, but it still can happen. So don't be afraid to do it. Now for the third part, this one is the nanotube. The nanotube is going to be one of the easiest one to do because I had so many extra of those. It's ridiculous. But you got 3 different 32% drop chance that you can do. So again, if you decide to do reactors bosses, you know, just go ahead and do it. And for me personally, for this one, I like to do the Pyromaniac. But you might like to do something else. Like you're going to do a Hangman, but Pyromaniac is the easiest boss here. If you don't want to do reactor bosses, then Pyromaniac is going to be your best bet. Very easy to do. You can do it solo or public if you have a good build. So 32%, that's going to be your best bet. And if you don't want to do it, then that's okay. Just do the other one. Now, let's go for the biggest issue that most people are having. It is the Enduring Legacy Blueprint. This one right here, I'm going to tell you, the best thing that you can do is to do the Executioner. However, I know some of you guys like to do reactor bosses. So if you decide you want to do reactor bosses, because every single one of them is still 10%. Whether you do the boss or whether you do the reactor, then it's going to be 10%. So it's going to be your choice. But like I said before about the patterns for Outpost, it could take you a very long time to get the many patterns that you need. Then again, it is not impossible to get it from there. I got all my 5 blueprint from the Executioner, and I know it is very easy to do. And I'm going to tell you how to do it. What you need to do, you need to farm the Infiltration Slumber Valley. Just make sure you select the reward number 2. That's going to give you the 0.59. If you just go and click on the infiltration and then do the first thing that you get, you're going to get 0.58 and you're going to be upset because you don't have the right pattern. So make sure you switch it to reward number 2. That's going to give you 59. And then if you do 10 runs, you're going to have 20 patterns. Only way you would not get 2 patterns for each run if somebody messes up and then you end up getting 1 pattern instead of 2. But you are pretty much guaranteed to have at least 1 pattern. That's the reason why I do the infiltration instead of doing the reactor bosses. You are guaranteed to have 1 or 2. Most likely you're going to have 2 patterns. So a few runs will give you a few patterns and you get more chances to actually go farm for the blueprints. And that's how I was able to get the blueprints to actually complete the whole shenanigan. Again, my trick is if you do 5 or 6, 7, 8 runs and you keep getting junk, then you need to stop and then just go do something else and then come back to it the next time. Otherwise, you're going to be wasting a lot of your patterns for no reason. Remember that tip. Try it. It might work. That's the way that you're going to complete the whole thing. I hope this was helpful. Hopefully, this helps you guys out. Hopefully, you get all your copies that you need and go and kill bosses like crazy. Anyway, if you have any questions, just please leave them in the comment section. I will try my best to answer your question. I hope this helps. Thanks so much for watching. I will see you guys in the next one.